What's going on, people? It's time for the Week 10 recap of the NPL. I'm your host, Dave, and I will be your guide through all these battles that were nearly either sweeps or pretty much hacks driven. In our first battle, we have the Portland Timbers versus the San Antonio Swampbirds. Looking at the team matchups, it looks like both teams seem to be fairly evenly matched in this case. I mean, Tokavar has a Zoomer, which threatens a majority of the Swampbirds team, while likewise, Celebi on the Swampbirds team can equally wall nearly every single one of Tokavar's Pokemon. It seems like both teams prepared extremely well. I believe it just came down to who lost their win condition first, that being either the Azumarill or the Celebi in this case. Going into the battle, there was a little bit of hacks in this battle. I mean, it kind of did matter because Mega Gardevoir got a critical hit against the Celebi, which was the Swamp's only way of walling the rest of Tovar's team. And someone is calling me. I will be right back. And I'm back. Sorry about that. Looking at the movesets that were used in this battle, I mean, the Swampert used an Own Claws Metagross. That was pretty cool. Meteor Mashes did quite a lot of damage and also kind of took away how often it would normally miss. That was pretty cool. And Tovar also had Hidden Power Ground on the Mega Gardevoir, specifically for either the Metagross or specifically that Heat ran. So, all in all, I think it came down to team preparation. I do think both teams prepared extremely well. In this case for the battle, I just think it mostly came down to who lost their win condition in the middle of the battle. And this resulted in a 3-0 victory for the Portland Timbers. Moving on to the next battle, we have the Washington Charizards versus the Atlanta Braviaries. Looking at the team matchup, it looks pretty evenly matched. I mean, at first glance, you might assume that the Charizards have a slight disadvantage because of how much weather war there could possibly be. I mean, when the sun is out, Hurricane misses a lot, which is bad. So it ultimately comes down to who dominates the most in terms of the weather, it seems, in this battle. Other than that, looking at what actually happened in the battle, the Charizards did a very interesting job covering their weaknesses, I suppose. The Tangrowth especially kind of interested me because it was a mixed Tangrowth with Infestation and Rock Slide. Infestation was a really good move to have on Tangrowth in this case because he could freely lock something in and then switch out into something that had the advantage. And with Rock Slide, I think the biggest turning point in the battle was when he made this excellent prediction for Trev to go into his Charizard and he just clicked Rock Slide, and I don't remember if it was a critical hit or not, but it just ended up knocking out the Charizard in one hit, so he couldn't even get up the sun to help his own team. In terms of what Trev did, I mean, he brought a Reuniclus with Thunder, just in case if there was actually rain out on the field, so that was pretty good preparation on his part. I do think this battle did come to a bit of a team matchup and also team preparation, and I just think the Charizards did an excellent job in terms of their move sets and also their predictions in this battle, because you could kind of tell that they exploited Trev's bug and dark majority weaknesses on his team, such as Reuniclus, Koopa Unbound, that thing's a giant threat, and he even went to certain lengths to put Rock Slide and Tangrowth just for the Charizard, which is pretty amazing. So I just think the Charizards did an excellent job preserving their entire team, pivot switching out whenever necessary, locking things in, and also predicting what would come in. And this resulted in a 6-0 victory for the Washington Charizards. Moving on to our third battle, we have what I consider to be possibly the most funny battle in this week. We have the Phoenix Sunkerns versus the Toronto Staraptors. And looking at this team, well, I mean, the first thing you can see is that the Sunkerns actually brought a Sunkern. A level 1 Sunkern. So, I do know that Sunkern can learn Endeavor, I think. So, I'm pretty sure that's what the Skunkrunkers are going for. I mean, probably just send it in, get knocked down to 1 HP, use Endeavor, save it for later to get sacked off for something else, and I don't know. Personally, I don't know if it was a good idea to bring Sunkern for this battle. It's still, I mean, it was still interesting to see how he was possibly going to use it, so I gotta give him props for that. Looking at Jolt's team, though, he has brought a very hyper-offensive team, it seems. Especially with Lucario, Sneasel, Jirachi. Jirachi especially threatens the Sunkern's team, because it doesn't have too many ways to deal with steel types. Midway through the battle, I mean, both sides got their stealth rocks up. The Sunkerns weren't able to remove the stealth rocks, so when the Sunkern was sent in, its focus sash got broken and the set was ultimately null and void. So it was unfortunate to see that the set couldn't have been used effectively in this battle. And I want to say that an even better part in this battle was when Jolt sent in his Wobbuffet on a Mega Medicham. And I think that the Sunkern should have seen this coming, but Mega Medicham ended up getting locked into a Fake Out as a result of Encore. Honestly, I'm pretty sure it might have been a misclick to lock yourself into Fake Out when you know that a Wobbuffet will almost for sure go for Encore. And this proved to be the biggest turning point in the battle, because when that thing got locked into Fake Out, after the first turn, it could do absolutely nothing. So Jolt ended up switching into his Lucario midway through the battle, and it just managed to set up a free sword stance while the Mega Medicham was still going for Fake Out. And by the time he was able to switch it out, it was just too late. And the rest of the battle was just a sweep with Lucario Close Combat and also Extreme Speed. And this was a 6-0 victory for the Toronto Star Raptors. Moving on to our next battle, we have the St. Louis Restaurants versus the New York Metangs. Looking at the team matchup, it looks somewhat even, I think. I do think that Victini poses a pretty big threat to the Restaurants team, while at the same time, Tyranitar also threatens the Metang's team with the Sandstorm, and when that's coupled with a Stoutland, that's usually pretty bad, especially when the Metang's only hard counters for Stoutland are Hoopa and Cobalion in this case. So early on into the battle, both teams lost their way to remove hazards, or they just didn't have anything to remove hazards, so there ended up being rocks on both sides of the field. So that was pretty bad for Thunderous T and also Salamence in the long run. The Victini on the Metang's team had a pretty interesting set. I believe it was Bolt Strike with, I don't want to say Zen Headbutt, but I do know for sure that it had Brick Break just to do with the Tyranitar and possibly Stoutland. So it was pretty good planning on the Metang's part to bring a fighting type move on Victini just for that. In the late game though, the Reshiram's ended up putting up their Sandstorm, and they sent in to what I believe to be Choice Banded Sand Rush Stoutland with Return, and that thing really hurts. It pretty much just swept the Metang's team in the very end of the battle after Hoopa was taken out. So I do think that it did come down to a team preparation. I mean, the Metangs did a good job bringing the Hoopa and Cobalion just for the Stoutland. But of course, when both of those Pokemon are taken out, I mean, Stoutland can just wreak havoc in the late game. And this resulted in a 2-0 victory for the St. Louis Reshiram's. In our last battle, we have Manaphy City versus the Montreal Cobalions. Looking at the team matchup, I do want to say that Manaphy City has a bit of an overall advantage over the Cobalions, simply because they have better type coverage over the Cobalions team in general, Like, they have fairy coverage for Kieran Black, they have water coverage for Nidoking, and also psychic coverage with Starmie. They have Gothitelle, which can easily disrupt any one of the possible walls on the Cavalian's team if it has Trick or not. And lastly, of course, the Manaphy City also has Hippowdon, which could easily wall almost nearly all of the Cavalian's physical threats, including Kieran Black, Charizard X, possibly Ferrothorn, and of course Granbull. Some interesting sets that I saw in this game were Choice Scarf Nidoking with Shadow Ball to do with Starmie. That was pretty creative on his part. The Cavalians didn't really have a way to remove hazards like Stealth Rocks, which is a bit iffy on their part because they have both Kieran Black and Charizard. So Charizard ended up taking half damage from the Stealth Rocks when it came in. Of course, it had Roost, but it's never really a good thing to waste one turn just to roost up Stealth Rock damage. Midway through the battle, this Gothitelle and Manaphy City's team seemed to do almost the entire work for it. This Gothitelle prevented Slowbro from switching out when it was at low HP, so it pretty much prevented it from getting any regenerator health back, and it ended up killing it with, I want to say, a Signal Beam. It managed to take out the Nidoking pretty easily with a few Psychics. I'm pretty sure the Cavalians thought that Gothitelle was choiced in some way. It might have been a choice trick set, so that's why they sent in their choiced Nidoking just to counter it, but it turns out that Gothitelle doesn't have a choice item in this battle. I forgot which one it had, but it wasn't really locked into a move. So Nidoking ended up getting trapped and died to Psychic. After that, I think Granbull was sent in, and that got trapped into a few Psychic attacks, and it went down eventually after that. Gothitelle eventually went down, but the damage was just already done. And the Cavalians were left with, I think, one Pokemon, and Manaphy City still had their Mega Pinsir left, and that was used to just pick off the Ferrothorn at the very end. And this resulted in a 3-0 victory for Manaphy City. And that concludes the Week 10 recap of the NPL. I am your host, Dave, and until next time.